And I think that because of the internet and online dating, you have so many choices and you feel like, oh, if I make this choice, oh, wait, the grass is greener over there. There might be somebody better. And we have this expectation of better and better and better and better and better.
Vanessa, welcome to the Oxford Talks podcast. How are you feeling today?
I am feeling absolutely wonderful.
Amazing. For those of us who don't know what do you do?
As a result of working with me, I help people reconnect to themselves and to each other. I'm a relationship reset expert.
Amazing. And how did you become one?
Well, although I studied psychology in university, it wasn't until I experienced a devastating event in my marriage that prompted me, after years of suffering, not only in my marriage, but within myself. I realized that we don't heal in isolation. We actually really, truly heal as part of a family union, as part of a community, as part of a greater humanity. And it was that pinnacle moment that caused me to really look within and realize that betrayal happens on so many different forms. We do it to ourselves, we do it to each other, we do it as a society. And I moved into this realm of helping others when I had an amazing mentor. She was a group leader of a support group that I attended. And she pulled me aside one day, and I was the unofficial sponsor for everyone else in the group. And she pulled me aside and she says, Vanessa, there's something I need to tell you, which if you've seen my Oxford talk, you know that just hearing that line, there's something I need to tell you, it brought me back to that moment. And I won't give it away, but she said, there's something I need to tell you. You're being selfish. And I took such offense to that because I was the unofficial sponsor for everyone else. And I fought her back. I was like, wait a second. I'm on speed dial for everyone else. She said, wait. You're being selfish because you're keeping your talent to just 11 people. You need to be more out there. You need to write a book. A book? I'm not going to write a book. I'm not going to share my story. Why would I share my story? And she says, your story is so powerful and it can really change a lot of people's lives. It's changing the 11 lives in here. Imagine what you could do if you share it with the community, just the community locally. And I became the best well-kept secret in my community of helping couples work through challenges in their marriage. Because overall, I believe in love. I do, and I believe it conquers all. And I know that there's challenges, and I know that there's betrayal and cheating and all kinds of things that we do to ourselves and do to others. But when we can really come together and finally hear what's being said, we can solve anything.
Tell me more about the micro betrayals, because we think of the cheatings and all of that as like one big act. But as I have been working with you and we discussed about these things before, it's never really most of the time a big act. There's small things leading up to it. How can one be aware of those?
A lot of my micro betrayals, as I refer to them, these little things that kind of get underneath your skin and you tuck them away under the rug. You figure you minimize them. You don't validate them. And one of the examples that I use in my talk was I remember it so distinctly, and sometimes when I bring the memory back to mind, I can viscerally feel it. Is I had a best friend in second grade. We were peas and carrots. And one day at recess, she whispered to the new girl, and they both turned to me and giggled and ran off together. And I stood there and I just remember the wave that came over me of hurt. And what I don't share in the talk is it it was further exasperated by the fact that I went home and I was so upset, and I shared it with my grandmother. And my grandparents went through the war, so they had a lot of trauma. And when I shared with my grandmother that my best friend is no longer my best friend, and it really hurt, she minimized it by saying, my friends were carted away. And her trauma started rippling through generations. And it came to this 7-year-old girl who lost her best friend on the playground at school. And my grandmother minimized it. And please don't misunderstand me. I love my grandmother to death. But I didn't realize that that was a micro betrayal twice over, not only from my best friend, but then from my grandmother. And we have these all throughout our lives, and some of us are great at cleaning those up. Others, such as myself, we're not. We hold on to it. It's a little scar on our skin, and we just start collecting these little ones that we became, because of society and because of family, they're minimized, and we don't recognize the impact that they will have until we have a catastrophic one. And in my particular case, because of my husband's actions, what happened was Pandora's box opened up. Every single insecurity I've ever had came flooding in and pretty much knocked me on my ass. And what I suggest, especially to my clients, is start cleaning up those little micro betrayals, start making peace with them, recognize them for what they are. Because when we bring awareness to it and we have the language to be able to use around it, you'd be surprised what we can clean up and how we can make peace with it and how we can move forward, and we can use it for the next generation. Because when my daughter came to me in the 5th grade and said her best friend was no longer her best friend, I didn't say to her, oh, well, in the 2nd grade, my best friend left me. No, you sit them down. That must hurt. That must really hurt. Let's talk about it. Express those feelings, get them up and out. Because what happens is when we suppress our feelings, whether those are the really bad feelings or even the really good feelings, when we suppress them, our body, our ecosystem, becomes a coffin. And we can really find ourselves in very dark places unnecessarily.
Can I ask, when would one know that? Um, because when you go through life, a lot of things are, you have to sort of, bite your tongue and move on. Otherwise, if you keep on pondering over every small thing, it might be hindering the growth because you're suddenly spending too much time. But at the same time, as we've discussed, some things might get uncovered very late in life. They have changed your behavior when they did happen, and because you didn't pay attention to them at that point in time, just like the incident with your daughter, let's say. How can one identify where I need to move on? Or actually, I think, I need to contact Vanessa.
It's a great question. And each person is completely individual. And we all have those moments of recollection where we're in a space and suddenly we're transported in time based on a feeling. Maya Angelou said it best. I might not remember what you said, but I remember how I feel. or how I felt. And that's true here. Some things we can just let them wash right over us. And others around us will say, wait a second, aren't you upset about that? Why you're so calm about that? And there might be a calmness that you have, but at the same time, there might be things that just, if you find that they continuously get underneath your skin and they prevent you from moving forward, you have to find the root of it. You have to, it's like a weed. You can't just cut the weed because it's just going to grow back. You actually have to grab a hold of it and yank it out and see what it actually is so that you can actually move forward from it. So it's not every single little thing, but you want to make sure that you honor yourself and not betray yourself by allowing other people's behavior to have a visceral effect on you.
That's pretty remarkable. I want to zoom out for a second and take you from here to into the culture, the wider culture as we live in the world. Recently, we were in conversation about this TV series, Adolescence, and I want to be a bit selfish here. I want to talk you to about that as a cultural phenomena. These are some things, and they can easily be put under the theme of a betrayal. And being with young men not being able to sort of have a role model in the front, which is kind of one of the major things that's been identified, that since they have not been have had a role model, they feel betrayed by with no point to go, and suddenly they are committing all sorts of weird crimes, and especially young men. How can one have a great relationship with oneself, especially at a very young age, at 5, 6, 10, 15 formative years, that for the younger audience who might be listening to this, they who might not even have the money to even, or might not even have legal access at 7-year old, maybe, you're not allowed to use social media on paper at least. How can parents teach them little nuggets that especially young men don't feel kind of betrayed by the society?
It's a larger question because just by the name social media, it was designed for us to come together. And actually, what it's done is it's separate us even further. And parents struggle with this. I see it all the time. You see, regrettably, some videos of toddlers just throwing tantrums when their device is taken away from them, when a device is taken away from them. They've become addicted to it. For the young men and young girls, because for a long time, the attention was on young girls of how they view themselves and comparing and despairing with all of the influencers and the makeup and the what clothing to wear and so forth and so on, and the bullying, the cyberbullying that was going on. The beauty of the movie, of the series Adolescence, really hones in on how social media is affecting young men, boys in particular, and how they view themselves and how they view their outside community. It's a challenge that we need to, as a society, figure out how to combat. I love Jennifer Aniston's campaign of no phones until 8th grade. I think it's extremely powerful. Let children play. Let them, children are not young adults. They're not mini adults. They're children. Let them play. Play with toys, such as the toys that you have next to you. Legos, things of that nature. Let them enjoy their adolescence without the society pressure to live their life through a filter that's completely unnecessary. I find that the parents, the couples that I deal with that are struggling in their marriage, a lot of it is that they struggle with being parents and they have two different agendas for what their children will be like. And an example that I love to use, and it's so simple, but it's so powerful, is the royal family. I love seeing the royal family interact with each other because you see them kneel down to their children. They never bend at the waist to their children. They always kneel down to their children. They have a respect not only for themselves, but for their children. And I think that parents in general need to be able to see their children eye to eye and really express themselves in such a powerful way to validate them, to let them know that they're loved, to let them know that they have value so that they don't look for it externally by the devices.
Vanessa, this issue and this working with social, I'm asking this because it kind of over a lot of the work that you might be working with adults later in the life, at least the generation which is just now, the 2000s of them, they're going to be entering kind of like workforce very soon, and they're going to be going through relationships and all of that very soon. But they are the internet first generation. For them, this is their reality. And the a lot of conversation, let's say us adults might be having, is more of kind of a doom or gloom. For them, they connect with their schoolmates. Can you help me with homework and all of that? And for us, we are saying that, of course, us adults are saying not to. And of course, we are right in a huge respect, and they kind of sometimes don't understand that, or maybe they haven't lived these sort of extremities of it. But this is a kind of recurring conversation. We have been talked. I've listened to this for almost a decade now. When it came out, we listened to it. Do you think there is a, and I haven't seen any profound change in that, let's say, in society? There might be preventive measures or do not, and I think degrowth in that respect is always kind of the way to go. You have it, you have the phone, and then you don't have it. Okay, situation solved. But then you're creating that tantrum. Then
Right.
I want to crave it even more now because I don't have it. Relationship building, relationship with oneself, and not betraying oneself. And I mean, betrayal, it goes very long way. As an athlete, if you're not eating well, you're kind of betraying yourself. If there's, the term can blanket over a lot of things. Especially coming back to the social part, what can we do very concrete like that our younger generation can take work from? And I feel like the train has kind of passed on social media and has entered into the AI part of it, which you have some sort of work done with your sort of with your work as well. Is gonna get even more in a direction that we don't even yet know of. From social media to asking questions that, at least that I have done, that what is the meaning of life? And the AI will give you a very, very good answer of like what it is. Relationships are gonna be very different, I feel like, future. And the basis of their difference, I feel like it is technology. What is your stance on it? The final conversation on social and the entrance of the conversation for the AI generation.
Oh, AI. It's such a blessing and a curse at the exact same time. It's fascinating for those who have an education, who have a baseline to understand. Because yes, you can go down the AI rabbit hole and ask it all kinds of things. You can have a whole conversation with AI. But that's what it is. It's AI. It doesn't have emotion. And our emotions are so prevalent for us to have relationships because love is the most intoxicating feeling that there is. And we want to be able to have that. It's interesting, your colleagues that I spoke with on the ride here, we had a very interesting conversation about dating with relationships. And it's interesting because right now the dating scene relates to apps and things, social media and whatnot, which we know are filtered, which we know there's a lot of catfishing going on. I definitely advocate, there's a brilliant woman who from New York who indicated the zero date. And I love that idea of what's missing in the dating scene now is actually that connection, to be able to look across the room, see somebody's eyes, and instantly have a moment, and you come over and you're like, "Hey, how are you? What's going on?" And have a little bit of a talk and then decide, "Okay, let's have a cup of coffee." Because you've had those 3 to 5 minutes to be able to have a little bit of connection. But that's in person. That's an energy from my energy to you and your energy back to me. That's lost on screen. And when we start having our lives through that type of filter and that type of screen, we lose that ability. So, going back to your previous question about what we can do, there was a great study with students in a particular school in the US where they banned phones for 30 days. And yes, kids initially very resistant to it. But by the end of the 30 days, they realized that they developed relationships and they felt more connected to their fellow students than they did through their devices. And a digital detox is really important for all of us. The fact that I have been here for a couple of days in London without pretty much the use of my phone, the only time I take out my phone is to take amazing photographs. Other than that, I am completely disconnected. And initially, yes, a little bit of angst of kind of thing, but it's refreshing. Once we get past that feeling of angst of, I'm going to miss out on something, we realize smiling at another person and having a conversation really makes us feel good. And isn't that what it's all about? Is feeling good? We want to have that opportunity. And even arguing. Some come from a place of, oh, I don't want to argue. But arguing allows us to release our feelings. And we want to be able to do that as well.
Vanessa, I want you to be my guide for a second. So I'm of the belief that let's take my belief out of it for a second. That I'll quote you two studies on it. Number one was this: people were trying to find correlation between inventions of modern locomotive forms, bikes and cars and all of that, and relationship sort of diversity. It certainly increased because if you had to see someone, let's say, who lived an hour walk away, that might be a thing. You might have done that. But if you had a bike, that suddenly became 20 minutes. And you couldn't, so your dating pool extended more the more the access you had. Is that bad? So you want people to be limited?
Yes, I think there's a great scene in a wonderful movie in The Hurt Locker about a bomb detector who goes through all different wars and has to, thinking of the word, he has to make a choice whether to cut the red wire or the blue wire so the bomb doesn't detonate. And he goes out there and he does his thing and he's very successful. And he returns home and the scene is so powerful. He's standing in the cereal aisle and he can't choose what cereal to pick because there's so many choices. It's no longer a red wire or a blue wire. It's an infinite number of choices. And I think that because of the internet and online dating, you have so many choices and you feel like, oh, if I make this choice, oh, wait, the grass is greener over there. There might be somebody better. And we have this expectation of better and better and better and better and better. We have to grow content with who we're with and not feel that it's an entire ocean of people. So yes, I'm a very big stay local, stay where you are, see what's around you, pay attention, and fall in love. Allow yourself to fall in love. Allow yourself to have those feelings. And falling in love doesn't necessarily mean a lifetime. It can be for a reason, it can be for a season, or it can be for a lifetime. But experience it, allow yourself to experience it, because there's no greater joy than connecting with someone else. It's in our DNA to connect with another. From a molecular level, the egg and the sperm, they're designed to connect with each other. That's what we need to do as well. And we don't need to have the barrier of technology to do so. We have to be able to look up from our smartphone and actually make eye contact with someone.
That's really profound. Vanessa, I'm going to zoom in back on what we were discussing. So all of these things, I believe, and you can quote me if I'm wrong on that, they certainly make the betrayal very easy then. You have access to anyone in the world. I want to come back to you on that in your work. That's why I wanted to bring you back. So the children, how we have access to these things very early on, and it's just like a thing we do. I have work phone and I have personal phone. They are around me all the time, leading up to my personal life, and I'm a bit late in my life, and I'm in relationships. These devices are they are with you in that relationship as well. And again, as you said, the bigger the pool that you have, the betrayal easy becomes. You can fall in love with, I don't know, someone who lives in Fiji Islands. It can totally happen. Just scroll on guys on, whatever, on Fiji Islands. Um, in your work, do you think that makes it easier then to have betrayed someone in an instant like this?
That comes down to integrity, your integrity, and how much you value the relationship that you're currently in. If you have integrity and you're committed to each other and you bypass all of the distractions around you, can you be faithful? Sure, absolutely. But if you're unhappy for a variety of reasons in your relationship, the most important thing that you can do is communicate and have that discussion with your partner. The amount of people who find themselves in a relationship that they want out of, and the other partner's holding on to them for dear life for a variety of reasons. Sometimes the betrayal is a way of getting out of a relationship. So that's usually my first question when I have a couple come to me for the very first time, both sitting on either end of my love seat. And I purposely have a love seat in my office, not a couch, because a love seat requires that at least a little bit of skin or a little bit of clothing is touching each other, unless, of course, they're clinging to the side. But they come to my office. They've done an intake form. They both are they're ready for it. They want to attack each other. And usually my very first question is, do you want to stay together? Do you want to stay together? And it depends on the response that I get from both of them. Usually one says absolutely and one hesitates. And then the hesitation allows for us to explore, do you want out of this relationship? A lot of times some people will wait until they have someone else before they leave a relationship. They just feel like, okay, I don't want to be alone, but I really don't want to be with you. And there are all of these nuances. That's what makes it so unique, because every single relationship is different and unique in and of itself. That's one of the reasons why I'm not cookie cutter. I don't have, this 8-week program to save your marriage and whatnot, because each one is completely different from the other one. And it really, most of the time, I'm going to say 90% of the time, it comes down to communication, how we communicate with each other, the words that we use. For example, the words never and always. These are really combative words in communication. He never takes out the garbage. Well, I took out the garbage last Thursday. That negates it. She always does X, Y, and Z. No, I don't. I don't always do that. And then suddenly we're arguing over the language and not actually what it is. So it's really teaching couples and individuals how to communicate your needs. And again, you talked about technology. With I'll give you a great example. My husband and I communicate via text, usually not over the phone, not verbally over the phone, but via text. And we all know that there are certain words in text that take on lots of different meanings. And I'm going to give you an example. The word fine, very dangerous word, fine, Fine. Because when you write it in text, it can mean so many different things. Fine, fine. The tonality is completely lost. Do you want to go out for dinner? I'd love to go to the Mexican restaurant. Fine, fine, fine. All the different nuance. It's the same word, but it loses its potency because we can't hear somebody's voice and feel that inflection in their voice of what they're actually trying to do, what they're trying to say. So communication is absolutely key in a relationship. In any relationship, it doesn't have to be romantic. Even colleagues, how much can get lost in translation?
Vanessa, why does it hurt to be betrayed?
When you give to another person in a romantic relationship, you give them your heart. You basically have taken your heart out of your chest and you have handed it to someone else. When they betray you, it's the feeling that they have dropped your heart and stomped on it 1,000 times. It's such a feeling of utter abandonment. It's a feeling of unworthiness. If you're plagued with insecurities, such as I was, it's all your insecurities rushing towards you. It's a lack of trust. You feel overwhelmed by it all. You truly do. And you're left picking up the pieces because you gave your heart to someone else. You trusted them unconditionally, and they did this to you. And some will dismiss it and just be like, okay, we're breaking up, we're done, and they move on. I find it interesting and sad at the same time that the divorce rate is hovering at 50%. And of the 50%, and again, don't quite quote the exact numbers, but a general feel for it, of those that divorce, more than half are very bitter, a bitter divorce, a nasty divorce. That's why divorce lawyers are very, very busy. They find that when they're divorced, that one of the parties, usually the male, but it can be male or female, will remarry within 5 years. And that's an interesting statistic in and of itself because it was so bitter. And you hear them say, I will never marry again. And they do, because love always prevails. It just does. But of those that get married again, it's a small percentage, but it's still a percentage. It hovers at about 12%, marry their spouse again. Just like that. And I find that statistic heartwarming in the fact that love prevails. And the Beatles said it best, all you need is love. And it's true. But you need communication, you need respect, you need dignity, and you need integrity as well. Those are byproducts, but first and foremost, you do need love.
That's very profound. Vanessa, what would you say to people who have been betrayed, have locked their heart up, and have thrown it down the river and never gonna do this again, and they never do, and they're suddenly 75, 80, or whatever, and they never experienced love again?
Wow, he's going to make me cry. That to me is so sad, to lock yourself up. You don't need to. Work with a professional. Start unlocking all of that barbed wire that you have around your heart.
Why would I do that? That person took everything from me.
They took everything from you, but you're stronger than you realize. You truly are. You just have to have that unlocked a little bit, because once you get a little pinprick of light in that darkness, suddenly it can be illuminated. And it's a wonderful feeling if you can shift yourself away from all the pain that it caused and go back a little further to when you fell in love, how that felt, what that made you feel like, because you can experience that again. There are people that find love in their 70s, 80s, 90s. Why? When Facebook first started, what did people look for? Their high school sweethearts. So many connections were made to go back in time to find the one that got away. I mean, we have terms in our language, the one that got away, that we want to connect to that part of ourselves. And when we fall in love also with ourselves, because we love our reflection in our partner's eyes. And that was it for me. I loved how I looked in my husband's beautiful chestnut brown eyes. I loved how I felt in his presence and still do. And we can have that moment where the entire world melts away. I mean, it's one of the most popular songs out of London, I Melt With You. It's such a beautiful love song because it's so true. When you look into someone else's eyes and the world melts away, you feel invincible. You feel that you can do anything. And at any age, at any age. So work with a professional. Start chipping away at that, because that's no way to live in isolation. Because not only are you hurting yourself, you're hurting others around you, whether that's your family, your friends, your community, even society. We are designed to be in community. We are designed to love.
So what about those people that might not have the privileges I guess we are enjoying today? There's certainly me and you that access to finances, access to so many things that have made this conversation possible. You very kindly flew all the way from New York to be with us. But some people, there's very little of us in the world, statistically speaking, and there's a lot of that they don't have access. They live on $12 a day, and certainly the dynamics that we are talking about, they certainly exist in every human since day one. It still exists today. How would you, through this medium, send a message to that kind of a person, male, female, whatever, that you might not even have kind of the means to be in access of a sort of a coach or let's say relationship expert, and the only thing they might be like some free internet, and but you certainly more people who are very lonely. Loneliness is at ever time high. They wake up in the morning, they go to job, there's a very collegial relationships, they do the thing, sit behind a desk, and then come home, watch TV, go to bed 5 times a day, 48 weeks a year, whatever, they're doing that. How can they fall in love with themselves and with someone else?
It starts with a smile. It truly does. You don't, professional help, yes, it, it will cost you without a doubt. And if you don't have those means, that's fine as well, because there are a lot of resources available for you. There's a lot of people in training that need clients, that need to work with people, that want to work with people. My first year before my practice, I worked with people pro bono because I just wanted to. I wanted to have my skill set be as best as it could be. And I learn every single day. Even though I've been doing this for almost a decade now, I still learn every single day. And it just involves having a conversation. And what's important is to allow yourself that opportunity just to open your mouth and say something to someone else. I make it a point that every single day, regardless of where I am, I will say hello to 3 people. And some people will just hi and just be very dismissive. Others will take it as an opportunity to start talking, which is great. And you mentioned that I flew here from New York. I sat on the plane next to a woman. Yes, we were quiet for the first hour. I asked her, because she was on the aisle, I was on the window, excuse me, I'd like to use the ladies' room and whatnot. And we struck up a conversation. And 6 hours later, we landed and we're like, wow, this was such a great conversation. And we wouldn't have had that had I not asked to use the ladies' room. Go figure. But you never know who you're going to meet. You just have to be open and you have to be receptive to it. So you do need to stretch yourself. So stretch yourself. Talk to someone else and say, I'm looking for this. I'm looking for someone to help me with X, Y, and Z. You'd be surprised how many people might know X, Y, and Z. I still work with a client pro bono, absolutely. We saw each other weekly, then we went to every other week, then we went to monthly, and now I see her every quarter because I'm invested in her recovery from betrayal. She appreciates that. She knows that she can't provide me funds, but sometimes it's not funds that we need. Sometimes it can be as simple as an introduction to someone else. I might not be able to pay you for your services, but you might know somebody who's looking to expand their practice and needs someone to facilitate that. It doesn't necessarily need to be a transaction that way. And where there's a will, there's a way. There absolutely is. And if you need help, there's resources. You just have to look for them. And that requires effort on your part. And if you want to heal, the healing is out there for you. And it starts from within out. So when you have something within you and you know that you want some help with it, talk to someone else. You'd be surprised. We as a society, we as humanity do want to help other people, but we have to know what we can do to help them. And if we can't help them, we might know somebody who can, or an organization or something of that sort. So the most important thing to know is that you are not in isolation. You are not alone in your suffering. And if you're willing to put yourself out there, even just a little bit, it starts with just a hello. And do it once a day. If you can't do it 3 times a day, do it once a day. Say hello to someone. Strike up a conversation, because you will meet the most interesting people, and at the same time, you'll get the support that you need.
Vanessa, speaking of having conversations with oneself, who is Nasty Chick?
Oh, nasty chick. Nasty chick is the name that I assigned to my inner critic. I had a vicious inner critic, and I didn't recognize that I had a vicious inner critic until my husband's betrayal, because the insecurities flooded me, and she came out guns blazing. She told me the nastiest things about myself, not about my husband. She didn't blame my husband. She blamed me for his betrayal. And I realized that she hasn't been serving me. I believe that we have 3 things. We have a gut. We have our gut instinct. We have our intuition, especially women. And we also have an inner critic.
So how would you identify between three? Because for me, they kind of look the same. I would love your help.
Oh,
Because maybe I'm not a
yes.
woman, so I didn't get the second part.
That's okay.
that
That's
might
okay.
be it.
There's women intuition, where you just have this sense of something that's going on. I have found that since I was able to tap down my inner critic, who again I refer to as nasty chick, because I needed to separate her from me. I always just thought it was part of me. It's kind of who I am. She's very judgmental, not only of myself, of me, but of people around me, which I always found very fascinating because my closest, dearest friends, and I apologize, um, initially when I met them, the judgment of my nasty chick, of my inner critic was like, "Oh, stay away from them." And they winded up being my dearest, dearest friends, um, because nasty chick was trying to protect me and also keep me very isolated. And my intuition and my gut, they went away. She bullied them to the point where they were non-existent. Now now all of the roles have reversed. My nasty chick is very much kept at bay. Every once in a while, she'll whisper, she'll say something, but then my intuition and my gut will immediately squash her and go, no, it's not like that. Let's really see things for the way they are. And that's really important, to see things as they are, not with any kind of judgment, not with any kind of filter, but meet people where they are and have that opportunity to connect, because that's what it's all about, is connection. We know it when we go anywhere. We can instantly have a connection with someone. We can both experience the same situation and look up at each other with this knowing, like, oh, yeah, yeah, you see that too, right? Yeah, I caught that as well. So for me, naming my inner critic helped separate and give some distance between the two so that I could see her for exactly what she was. That allowed space for my gut and my intuition to come into play. It also allowed me to see things as they are. And I have found it very, very fascinating, the synchronicities that have happened in my life since the betrayal, since having all of this healing work. And what I mean by that is I see things in patterns of three, meaning that in the course of a day, if I see the same drink, I've never heard of the drink before, but I see it here, I see an advertisement for it, I see it somewhere else, I'm like, I have to try that. I've now seen it 3 times. I've never seen it before, but suddenly I see it and it's like, oh, pay attention to that, see that. I also very much believe that, I don't want to say things happen for a reason because that can be twisted, but the example that I'll use, and perhaps you can put words to it, is, for example, I will leave my house, and I will walk out of my house and suddenly realize I don't have the keys to my office. I will turn around, go into my house. My keys are next to the umbrella. I forgot the umbrella. But then seeing the keys and seeing the umbrella together, oh, it's going to rain. I need my umbrella. And I say, thank you. Thank you. Because had I not forgotten my keys, I would have left the umbrella and I would have been soaked. So now I have this synchronicity that came into play, this pattern that happened where I do feel that I'm being looked out for. And that's a very warm feeling. And that's what we want from each other, is we want to feel connected. We want people to look out for us. We want to look out for ourselves. But that requires that we be present, that we be right in this moment. We're not thinking ahead of, oh, what's going to happen then? And we're not trapped in the past. We're living this moment right here, right now. And that's the beauty of it.
Would it ever die, or would it always be there?
Oh, it'll always be there. It'll always be there. It's never going to die. It it's it's there for me, the way I feel about my inner critic. It's to remind me of how far I've come, of how I let her rule my life for so long and I didn't even recognize it. I just thought everybody has this. Everybody has a voice inside them, which is true. Mine was just really vicious. And she said things to me that had a person said it to me, I probably would have knocked them out. I would have knocked them on their ass. But she could say anything to me, and she did. She did. She beat me down. And that is the reason why. And when I say this to others, they're very taken back by it. I'm grateful for my husband's betrayal. I just am. At the time, absolutely not. But in hindsight, looking back to it, it was the necessary shove that I needed to step into who I was always meant to be. I came alive in my 40s, and I'm ridiculously grateful. I am not the same person I was 10 years ago. Not at all. I'm completely different. People who haven't seen me in 2 decades cannot believe the outward appearance, and I cannot believe the inward appearance that I have. I can look in the mirror and recognize who I am. I see myself exactly as I am, not filtered, not beating myself up over things. And it's a great way to live. I encourage others for it, to tap down their inner critic and realize you are worthy. You are amazing just as you are, regardless of who you are, where you live, your economic status, male, female, sexual orientation. You are unique and you are beautiful just as you are. And you will absolutely find those that allow you to be you and not allow you to betray yourself by trying to fit into this mold that someone else has tried to put you in, whether that's internally with an inner critic or externally with society.
Vanessa, those are very profound answers. I want to take you out from here completely in a kind of a globalist level. World is in trouble. There's a lot of it going on. And at the heart of it is still people. And we talked about how communities at times when you're there all by yourself without any means whatsoever, communities sometimes can intervene. And again, you look at countries, we are British, we are Americans, we are Indian, or we are Arab. The group of a cluster of communities forming, banding together, calling themselves a country. That's what we call it. But the heart of it is still the individual. World is going through a lot, and I feel like the theme of expectations and betrayal is quite a lot. And how would one navigate this realm when it's just not two people anymore, or maybe a family anymore, and suddenly 10 million here, 50 million there, and you might not be able to speak to them because it's just not virtually impossible. What would you say to calm the world down a little bit, that this is what's needed, and to maybe communicate to the leaders, which are still husbands and wives and mothers and daughters and sisters, they still have families. And I feel like I'm asking you this question because that's the realm you can penetrate through your work, straight through, and not take them as on pedestal as this one person. A lot of people are nasty. They're nasty chicks is who they are. But at times I want to give people that benefit of doubt, that I don't think so, no one's born a criminal per se. The world has a lot to do around with it. So if it can influence negatively, perhaps individuals like yourself can influence positively. What would be your message to calm everything down? Like, guys, come on.
When you started the question, my knee-jerk response was to pause. I do think that at times we need to pause. We need to respond rather than react. Because when we react, it's very volatile. It's the rush of emotions that come up and out. And sometimes that's not the most appropriate thing to do. Sometimes we need to pause. We need to respond. We need to reflect. We need to step back and see the whole thing. It's similar to a Monet. It's a line in a movie about up close it's a big old mess, and further away you see the beauty of it. As a society, as a collective, we need to find our tribe. We need to find those that are like-minded, who have a thought, their own thought, not something that somebody else has propagated onto them and um, shoved onto them, that they have their own thoughts. Because when we are led blindly, that's when we get into trouble. We have to be able to see things for what they are. And that's why freedom of the press is so important, to be able to get information to the masses that's accurate. And we regrettably have gotten very nasty about everything. Everything is clickbait, everything is politicized. We need to get back to basics. We need to get back to the family unit of a nucleus family, and start from a community level and push out from there. And can we have change? Of course. We've seen some successful change happen. We've seen change also start out successful and get twisted. But if we pause and we allow the moment to reflect and to see it for what it is, and to stay present and not go into the past, not go into the future. We're right here, right now. Let's focus on this. What is the issue at hand? Is it a failure to communicate? Is it a disservice to everyone if we don't give everyone an opportunity to have a voice at the table, to have a seat at the table, so that they can express themselves? But they also have to be able to express themselves in a way that allows everyone else the opportunity to do so as well.
That's really amazing. Yeah, it really is. Vanessa, coming back to you, where do you see in 10 to 15 years of time? I know I asked this question, it can be very like, oh my God, like you get to hear this a lot. But sometimes you have a kind of a wish. Certainly, I do have mine with work and all of those things. And they tend to be along the lines of expansion of this and more of that, and more of that would be really nice. What would be your kind of, I don't want to call it legacy because that's not really the right term, but in a sense that what is that you want to add to human enterprise that kind of outlives your teachings, that outlive you? And then, some maybe you can reflect back within your life, like, you know what, I gave the world this, and now they're doing it this way, and it's better. The nasty chick is like, you know what, at the end of the day, oh, you actually did good. What is that one thing for you?
First off, I'm going to say I don't really care what Nasty Chick thinks. So I want
Wonderful.
to clarify
Wonderful.
that. So I don't care what she thinks. For my own integrity, I need to go back. I need to go back to fifth grade. I had an amazing fifth grade teacher. Um, I was born to terrified teenage parents, and my father was out of the picture before I was even 2. So I had a male fifth grade teacher, and I looked up to him as a father figure. I did. And at graduation from elementary school, my mother, being a single parent, couldn't make the graduation, so I was there by myself, and I pretty much clung to my fifth grade teacher Mr. Shapiro. And I marveled in awe of the various students that approached him at graduation and just thanked him and thanked him over. And there were students a little older than me, there were high school students, there were college students, there were parents that came with their children to say thank you to him. There was a line of people lined up for him. And I remember standing there being in such awe that I want that. I want to have that kind of impact on individual people, that they would make it a point on a Tuesday afternoon to miss work or wherever they were supposed to be, to come to this graduation, to have an opportunity to meet Mr. Shapiro and thank him for having an impact on their lives. So in 20, 30, 40 years, I want to have that same impact. I want to have a child of a couple that I'm working with now who are contemplating divorce, who are trying to salvage their marriage. I want that child to come to me in 30 years and just say thank you. Thank you for saving my parents' marriage, or thank you for allowing my parents to divorce amicably so that I could be part of two different families now. Whatever it might be, I want to have that individual impact because I think it ripples out in such a profound way. It's I circle back to love is love. I'm I'm so grateful, as I mentioned, about my husband's betrayal. I'm also grateful for my two children who are both getting married this year. And they approached me separately, but thanked me in their own way for showing them that marriage is challenging. Marriage is not, it's not that you find your person, you get married and the work is over. No, actually the work just starts when you get married, and you have to keep at it. And when you do, it's so worth it. It's so worth it when it's right and you can move through the challenges in a compassionate way, because the other side of betrayal is really beautiful because you get to really know yourself. I'm a different woman than what my husband met those many, many years ago. And he's a different man. He truly is. And we got a chance to fall in love all over again.
Somehow it reminds me of slightly different, but a quote, and maybe perhaps like I saw it in a Bruce Lee movie, that you can be the most learned man in the world, but if you want to learn more, and when you're ready, then the master appears. So you can think that everything is whatever, as we were talking about. Life is hard, da, 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 I don't have money, da, da, but when you're ready, things will happen.
Oh, without a doubt, and you almost have to ask for it. You have
Yeah.
to project it out that this is what you want. This is how you want to live your life. This is what you're looking for, because you will find it. There's a great suggestion, and I apologize to whomever suggested it that I'm not giving proper credit, but for dating, that if you're looking for someone, you need to make space in your life for that person. And she suggests you actually take a dresser drawer and you empty it out, and you have an empty drawer waiting for that partner so that they have space to put their things in. Just by the physicality of having that space, you're saying to God, source, spirit, the universe, I'm ready. Here it is. Here's the space. I'm ready for it. And I think that's beautiful. I truly do.
I, this is the most remarkable thing I've heard. I think people will catch up onto that. That empty your drawers, folks, and something would happen. Vanessa, we have a very beautiful tradition on the podcast that we ask our guests to tell us what is that one profound book that has completely changed their life. What we would do is we will buy that book and connect it with you give it to an audience member, and they can be anywhere in the world. We will send them the copy, physical, PDF, whatever it is, and we'll help them connect with you as an individual. Because yes, we are doing all these exercises and talking about millions of views and all of that, but if through this particular podcast one person can be connected, I'll consider the job done. Millions, they can come, they cannot come. We have no control over that. But to that one person, we will really make an effort and connect. So, what is that one book that changed your life, or you absolutely really love?
Mm. Well, I knew that you would be asking me this question. So, this is my favorite book, and it's actually for you. I brought you a copy so that you have it. It is The Places That Scare You.
Wow.
And I'd love to give it to you with my
Thank you so much, Vanessa.
compliments.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's a wonderful book. Your copy's nice and clean. My copy, of course, has lots of highlights in it because I've read it over and over and over again. But
Thank
my
you so much.
favorite quote from it is, "You are the sky, the rest is the weather."
Thank you. For the listeners, Vanessa has given me The Places That Scare You, a guide to fearlessness in difficult times. Feels like that makes me kind of a world leader, that I'm going through a difficult time. Let me read this and take some navigation. Vanessa, thank you so much. And I think this on a personal note, this has struck me the most about you, that I've been doing this work for almost a decade now. I don't remember anyone ever gave me anything like this. And this is nothing to do with the book. Even the fact, the dollar note you gave me as for our other venture, Yonex Pay, you knew about it, and that just touched me very deeply. And not because sometimes people, you receive gifts and they mean more as a gift than they say as something that you would actually use. That hit me like a very strongly. I was like, I very much love what I got, and I'm gonna be making use of this, and this is really great. So it's one of the most profound gifts I've ever got. Yeah, so thank you so much for that, and I really hope, I think the words of wisdom you sort of shared with us today, and that's why I asked. It really hurts when you get betrayed, and again, it doesn't really has to be a romantic settings, and we talked about communities and even at global level. So much happens up there, but I hope people can find some solace in your words, because that's all it is. It's not like, come here, buy my 8-week thing. It's nothing like that at all. And hopefully after the Oxford Talks experience, I think most people are going to be reaching out to you. Vanessa, what is the best way to reach out to you, speaking of that?
My website, that's my URL, vanessa-cardenas.com, or otherwise known as understandingear.com. That comes, we talked about books and quotes. Understanding Ear came from a quote from a Stephen King book that I read in high school. And yes, I'm going to date myself, I tore it out. I tore a page out of a library book. Yes, you can come after me. That's okay. The quote in long form, I've condensed it, but in essence, it says, "The most important things to say are the hardest things to say, not for the want of a teller, but for the want of an understanding ear." And that's what I am. I'm an understanding ear. I listen intently. I attempt to extract things that are important to others and reflect it back to them so that they can see the beauty that they have within them. It's similar. You and I had dinner the other night, and I asked the waitress if I could save the menu because the menu was beautiful in and of itself, beautiful menu, but it wasn't for that purpose. It was truly for the purpose that I want to hand it back to you in 10 years because I know that our relationship on a business level will continue because I've had such an amazing experience speaking at Oxford Talks and also on this podcast. You and I and your team have connected in such a profound way, for which I am most grateful. So thank you.
So I want to end on that note. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you.
Beautiful.